So first thing we're going to do is bring up the keypad by hitting the bottom left, bottom right, and top right corners. Then we'll enter in our password. Now we are in the admin screen. If you look here, we can see that the left door is open, right door is open, front door is open, and the motion sensor we have is inactive, and this tells us the core temperatures of our computer system. If I was to close the front door, then this would say closed. Same with our rear doors. First thing we want to do when we get booted up is we go to machine setup, and we're going to connect to our Wi-Fi. So again, Wi-Fi setup is located under machine. We will scroll down until we get to our wireless networks. Now ours is already connected to a network, so we see here it says GNXT, that's our network. And if I wanted to disconnect, I would hit this forget button. If I wasn't connected to any, I would press this. I would enter in the password that comes up on the screen, and I would hit OK. If you hit network information, we will see the IP address is right here. That's how I know that I'm definitely connected to a network. Okay. Once that's done, I will scroll down here and I will take a look at my application number. I'll confirm that this is the most current version of the software. If it's not, what I'll do is I'll hit the update software button, and the computer will reset. It'll go through a bunch of screens and eventually boot back up. Then I'll come back down and I'll verify that this is that it has been updated. Now, if it hasn't been updated, or for some reason it cannot connect to Wi-Fi, then you will want to do a update with a USB stick. You'll do that by formatting a USB drive as a FAT32. You will name the drive Yobot, that's Y-O-B-O-T, and then you will download the appropriate files, put them on the root drive of that USB stick. Then you will come to your machine. You'll put the drive into the USB port here. Once you do that, the computer should automatically reboot, go through the steps that it needs to, and then when it says please wait on the screen, you'll remove the drive from the USB port. Once that's done, then you'll go back down, verify the application number again, and it should be up to date. Once that's done, I'll go here, I'll find the serial number. On the machine, the serial number will be located right down here. There'll be a T-lock here, and then there'll be a sticker down here that has the serial number. You'll enter that in. Make sure to use any dashes that appear on the serial number to keep it consistent with all the rest of the machines. Then you'll enter in there your email address. This is the operator's email address. That's so they can receive notifications from the machine. They will not receive notifications if nothing is entered in there. And it only accepts a single address. We're looking to expand that later on. If they need multiple notifications, they could set that up on their email client to automatically forward. Then you want to make sure that there is a location name entered here. Do not use abbreviations like this does. Try to use the full name of the location. That way it'll help identify where it is when looking at all the machines on the network. Under here we have set the time zone. This says US Pacific. I can confirm that the time up here, the date and time up here, is actually current. If it's not, make an adjustment. Next up, selecting flavors. So under your soft serve fill, I get to this screen. I can select my flavors simply by choosing them on this list. So in this case, I have cake batter, or let's go with white vanilla in our left barrel, Dutch chocolate in our right barrel. Whenever I select my flavors, I will hit fill now. That way the report will show the last time my my hoppers have been filled. And now I'm going to skip this right here for now and scroll right down here. So the next thing I'm going to look at is I'm going to find the flavors that I've selected, in this case white vanilla. I'm going to click edit. Here is where I could adjust things like the dispense time and the consistency. If I find that when I'm pouring a regular it's too large, then I can lower the dispense time. I know that when I have this set to 2, my white vanilla is actually, it pours at just about 6 ounces, so I'll leave that here. In this case, my large is at 6 seconds. and that's going to be pouring way too much, so I'll lower this down to about 3 seconds, just like that. And then I'll vend a couple just to see how that's looking. I'd want my large at just around 7 ounces. If my white vanilla was coming out too dense, then I will change my consistency adjustment to about 95. Well, here, because it was set to 105, I'll just lower it to 95 here. Now, if it's still a little too dense, I could lower that more. And then if it's too light or too runny, I can always turn that back up. The drift is how far away from this 95 is allowed to go before the augers kick back on to try to change it. And then the temperature adjustment allows us to obviously adjust the temperature on the inside here. This is good, so I'll hit OK on that. Now, in regards to consistency, there is one other setting that you need to be aware of, and that would be inside the hoppers. You have your inlet regulators. They're the ones that are sitting inside like this. This has an adjustment on it, 0 through 3. By default, we have this set to 2, but if you have a very thick product, you might want to set it to 3. And what that does is it adjusts which hole on the bottom of the inlet regulator the product flows through. 3 is the largest, 1 is the thinnest. A very thin product can go through the smallest hole, while the thicker ones will go through the larger hole. And what that does is it regulates the amount of air that gets incorporated into your product. Our twist is adjusted through this, reduced twist dispense time. Really, the twist pours out by default at an average dispense time of the 2 flavors that you've selected. So if I have a white vanilla dispensing a regular at 2 seconds and a Dutch chocolate dispensing at 3 seconds, then our twist time defaults to 2.5. That number is not visible anywhere. But if 2.5 is too large, then by changing this to 0.5, I'm reducing 0.5 seconds from that 2.5. So that means our twist is actually dispensing at 2. Okay? So think of this as subtracting the number of seconds from your twist time. Okay, next up here, we have the amounts for our regular treat and our large treat. Okay, we're selling a regular at $4, and we actually don't have large as a selection on our customer screen because I have it set to 0. We're only selling a large out of the screen. If I wanted to sell a treat for $5, I just move that up to $5, and we'd be all set. Now I'd be selling both sizes. I'm going to leave this at 0. Next up, we have our topping fill. This works from the front of the machine to the back of the machine. In our machine now, we have nothing in our back and middle rows here. But in the front, we have Fruity Pebbles and Cocoa Krispies as selections. Under our topping fill, we can select an individual topping, and we could adjust the dose time, which is how many times that auger actually spins in there. The dwell time, which is how long the cup actually sits under the topping. And then we could adjust our speed, which is the speed in which the motor turns. If you find that you're having a lot of jamming happening with a particular topping, you could lower the speed, and that tends to correct that problem. The allergens are selected by default. They're in the system. You can't actually select them there. Under robot setup, we can check the status of our machine. Right now, I was running some tests, so it's showing as offline, but yours should show as OK. Under that, your fault condition should say OK. If it doesn't, then you'd probably see a hexadecimal number there, and the LED light in the front of your hand would be red. That indicates that something's wrong. You can give that number to the service rep that's helping you kind of repair any issue you might have on your machine, and it'll help them identify the problem. The temperature right there is going to be the temperature of the robot board. Software version is the number of your firmware. Joint positions are going to tell you what position this arm is in. It's not something you'd really use. And the cup sensor raw value would be how the reading on the sensor of the actual hand there itself. Update robot positions. This is where you can calibrate your machine. Calibration steps will be explained in a different video or documentation. Reset defaults will set all the settings that you might have saved in here back to their default. And if there's a new software update, if told you may be required to update the firmware, you do that by hitting update firmware. This 0 adjustment area should never be selected. Never ever hit this button. Do not hit this button. All right, back to our machine setup page. We have a few different things we could look at here. Soft serve dry run will allow you to run a customer order. When it gets to the soft serve, it actually won't open the valve if this is selected. So it's a way for you to test the arm movement. Same thing with topping dry run. It'll go through all the motions of your customer order, but it won't actually dispense whatever toppings you select. Ignore door switches does exactly that. If your door is open and this is not selected, then you cannot run a customer order. By selecting it, it ignores it, so it allows you to run a customer order. You would do that when testing things in your machine with your door open. Ignore robot firmware. Obviously, it's going to ignore your robot firmware. It'll help you troubleshoot issues if that ever comes up. Ignore robot cup sensor. That will deactivate the sensor in the hand that detects whether or not there's a cup in the hand. Don't ever use that. That's only for our machine, really, because our sensor is broken. If you have a broken sensor in your hand, let's get it replaced. Don't ever hit that button or you risk dispensing product right onto your drip tray, and that's no fun. New robot hand. If you have a 3D printed robot hand in your machine, then you're going to want to have new robot hand selected. Ours is 3D printed, ours should be selected. If you are using the temporary hand that was provided by Stolten that uses the metal bracket on the wrist, then you would want this shut off. Demo mode allows you to vend for free. If this is unselected, then you would have to use cash or credit for any of your payments. Extra cooling will overrun the fan that's installed in your compressor on your machine. That is if you're experiencing any heat problems, such as toppings melting or your robot board overheating. And alert for logins will alert you anytime somebody actually logs into your machine. Here we can adjust the illumination, so the lights. Sleep schedule. This will allow you to set when your machine automatically powers down. When it goes to sleep, you would hit set here. Press wait time. Select what time you want it to wake up in the morning. So here we can set it for, let's say, 7 a.m. And then we want it to go back to sleep at 11:59. I can select what days of the week I want this setting to be copied to, and then I would hit save. So that way at that time it will automatically go to that. When it's in sleep mode, the customer interface will just say please wait, and it won't return to actually saying touch to begin until the wake time actually occurs. I can completely override the sleep schedule by clicking on left cylinder override or right cylinder override. This completely overlooks this, so basically I can put it in 24-hour mode by doing that. Here's the volume for your animation video. And payment systems. To load your recycler, what you do is you hit load recycler, and then you'll see that the recycler will turn purple. First it says initializing, it says insert cash to continue. You put $1 in there at a time, or one bill in there at a time. It will shut the purple light off. Eventually it'll turn back purple again, and you load your next bill in. You'll do that until you have all the notes loaded into the system. Then when you're done, you would hit done. If I have my recycler completely loaded and I want to get the cash out of it, then I can go here and hit empty recycler. When I hit empty recycler, all the bills from the recycler will go into the cash box. To get into the cash box, I will turn the keys on either side of the machine. You got one back here and you got one here. Turn that, the whole mechanism comes down just like this, and then you will if you have a barrel lock installed here, you'll have to open that up so you can remove the cash box right here, simply by going like that. Then on this you have a button here, a little tab here that you can squeeze and pull down. Or if you have any barrel locks installed here, then you would have to open those first, but do that, open it up, and you can open this and remove your cash out. Auto cash will be in. Okay. To put the cash box back in, just place it right down like that, and make sure once it's back inserted that the light stops blinking and it makes that noise. Otherwise you won't be able to use it. If for some reason your payment system is broken or your cash box is broken, you can use disable cash or disable credit to deactivate it from the customer menu. So by selecting disable cash, for instance, when they get to the payment portion of the screen, they will not be able to use cash. Reboot will actually reboot just the computer. It's a soft reboot. It does not power down all the different components in your machine. You will use that during troubleshooting. Send logs will send an event log to the software developer so they can analyze any potential errors in the machine. Under manual dispense, we can test our cups. So we could drop a cup just like that. If there was some kind of issue where our cups were not dispensing, or we had an error message that said the cups are jammed, we can clear it by hitting clear faults. We can test our door by hitting open door and closed door. That goes for our delivery door here. So our opening door will close that. Closed door will close it. This tells us if anything is in our delivery door. Under topping dispensers, we can test vend any of the toppings. So our front leftmost dispenser has chocolate sprinkles in it right there. So if we wanted to test that one, we could hit topping 3. And sure enough, everything goes there and spills everywhere. All right, if you have somebody with you, you can have them hold a cup under that and you won't make a mess. If there was an issue where that topping was not showing up on our menu or was jammed, then when we go here where it says status, it would say jammed. And instead of saying topping 3, it will say troubleshoot. Clicking troubleshoot will bring up a pop-up that says, do you want to test? It says a bunch of stuff, but it says, do you want to test it? You would hit test dispense. It would say test was okay. Would you like to try again to clear it? And then you hit test again. And then as long as it dispenses, then it'll clear the fault out. Once you hit done, it'll go back to looking like status okay. Our cleaning menu. Up at the top here, we have a drop down that controls the left side of the machine. So this will control your left barrel, and then the right side will be your right barrel. Under the left side, we have serve. Serve activates the freezing mechanism inside of the barrel and keeps the product in the top cool. It'll keep it liquid while the front is, or the bottom barrel is your frozen product. Under that, we have sleep. Sleep keeps both your barrel and your hopper at about below 34 degrees. That keeps them both in liquid state. It's a low power mode. So like overnight when nobody's gonna be using it, you would put it into that. Deactivate shuts off all the freezing mechanisms and everything will get warm. It'll also make the augers will not turn during deactivate. Under the sleep and serve modes, the augers do turn occasionally just to keep the consistency of the product right, or just agitate the product inside the barrel so it doesn't just sit and become stagnant. Deactivate is basically just off. Clean will turn the augers for 5 minutes, but does not turn any of the refrigeration components on. Offline and invalid are reserved for just the computer's use. You will never select those. Under that, we could see that there is a low mix. That is because the sensor inside the hopper is not actually touching any product. There is our sensor right there, that metal bar, and there's no product in there, so it's saying no mix. If there's product in here, it would determine that there is mix. This is also our temperature sensor. Underneath that, it says cleaning required. The cleaning required means that the temperature has gone out of range, or it's been over 7 days since the last cleaning. To reset that, if it's the 7-day error, then that front door needs to be removed and then reapplied. If it's just because of the temperature, then the machine should be put into clean for about 5 to 10 seconds and then stopped. At that point, you might need to reboot under the machine setup screen in order to get that error to be cleared. If it does say cleaning required, then anytime we go to vent, it'll say sorry, out of yogurt, and you'll see that under your soft serve fill, that barrel will automatically have gone to empty, and you'll have to reselect your flavor. So first thing you'll want to do if you ever get that error message is actually make sure you get rid of that cleaning required screen, then go back and reselect your flavor. Alright, under that we have our open and close buttons. Hitting open 2 times will open the valve all the way. Only hitting open once opens it halfway, and you don't really want to vend anything like that. Close will obviously close the valve afterward. And under there we can see our consistency, cylinder temp, hopper temp, whether the auger's on or off, and the motor current. The consistency will only give you a reading when the augers are spinning. Under that, we can see the ambient temperature of the machine, plus the motor voltage, compressor current, whether the compressor is on, or the fan motor, and we can also set our hopper temperatures.